So, you want to build an Amazon FBA private label brand. Most people think it means finding a product on Alibaba, slapping your logo on it, running a few ads, and watching passive income roll in. That part is roughly true, except before any of that happens, you need to deal with the part nobody talks about when they show you their Seller Central dashboard, which is the money. And the first number that stops most people before they even source a sample is the startup cost. Launching a real private label product in 2026 costs somewhere between $2,500 and $15,000. At the cheap end, you are testing a simple, lightweight product with one supplier and a lean launch. At the expensive end, you are building an actual brand, proper packaging, professional photography, a real ad budget, and enough inventory to survive a stockout-free first 90 days. Most sellers who treat this seriously land closer to $4,000 to $8,000 just to get one product live, before a single review has come in. Inventory is the first real cost. A typical first order runs 300 to 1,000 units at a landed cost of $3 to $12 per unit. Add samples, which run $50 to $300 per supplier once you ship a few candidates before settling on one. Add photography and a listing designer, $500 to $2,000 for main images, lifestyle shots, and a plus content. Add a barcode, brand registry setup, and basic packaging design, another few $100s on top. Then there's the launch ad budget, because an unranked listing does not rank itself. A realistic first 60 days PPC budget runs $1,000 to $3,000, and it's the line item most new sellers underfund, right before they wonder why their listing never took off. Then there's Amazon itself, and this is the part almost nobody explains correctly. Every dollar of revenue passes through a toll booth before it reaches your bank account. Amazon takes a referral fee of 8 to 15% of the sale price. FBA fulfillment fees run roughly $3 to $8 per unit. Then there's monthly storage, which spikes sharply during Q4 peak season. Miss your inventory timing and you're paying premium rates on units that aren't moving. Stack the referral fee, fulfillment fee, and storage together, and combined Amazon fees typically consume 30 to 40% of your selling price before you've paid for the product itself. So why would anyone hand over that much of every sale? The reach. You're placing a product in front of a customer base that already has a card on file, already trusts one-click checkout, and already searches Amazon first when they want to buy something. That distribution is worth paying for. But here's the thing nobody tells you, the headline retail margin on a private label product is not your take-home. It's the starting point of a compression that, by the time it reaches your bank account, has gone from a 50 to 60% margin on paper to somewhere between 10 and 25% net, on a good month, in a well-run brand. That distance is your entire life as an FBA seller. The single largest expense after Amazon's own fees is advertising. A healthy taco's total advertising cost of sales sits at 10 to 20% of revenue for an established listing. For a brand new listing still fighting for its first reviews, that number often runs 30% or higher, because you're buying market share before the algorithm does any work for you. Above roughly 25% sustained tacos on a mature listing, you're paying Amazon to sell you your own customers. Below that, once a listing has enough reviews and ranking, ad spend can trim back toward 8 to 12% where most profitable, mature products actually operate. Cost of goods, meaning landed unit cost plus inbound freight, typically runs 15 to 30% of the selling price depending on category and how well you negotiated. This is also where currency swings, tariffs, and freight rate volatility quietly rewrite your entire margin between one purchase order and the next, without you changing anything about your listing. Add it all up: referral fees, fulfillment, storage, advertising, cost of goods, returns, and software subscriptions, and total costs typically run 75 to 90% of revenue before the owner takes a dollar. Net profit margin for a mature, well-run private label brand averages 15 to 25% of revenue, with the category-wide average sitting closer to 10% once underperforming listings and abandoned products are folded into the calculation. Here's the part that catches most first-timers off guard. revenue doesn't arrive on a smooth curve. It's common for 25 to 35% of a brand's annual revenue to land inside just a few weeks around Prime Day and Black Friday through Cyber Monday. You're paying for inventory, storage, and ads all year, but the revenue that justifies it arrives in short, intense bursts you had to prepare for months in advance. Run out of stock during Black Friday week because your reorder timing was off by 2 weeks, and that revenue is simply gone, along with the ranking momentum the algorithm had built. Here's the number most people don't want to hear before their first purchase order. Depending on how you define failure, somewhere between 60 and 90% of new private label sellers never reach sustainable profitability, with more conservative estimates suggesting 46 to 64% become profitable within their first year, and only a smaller share sustain that long term. That's not a scare statistic. It's an honest description of a business where the fees are structural, the margins are thin, competition is measured in millions of sellers, and the most common cause of failure isn't a bad product, it's underestimating the operational complexity of running inventory, advertising, and cash flow at once, picking an oversaturated category with razor-thin margins, or running out of working capital during the 90 days it takes a new listing to find its footing. Most new products take 4 to 12 months to reach consistent profitability. During that ramp-up, the next reorder, ad spend, and storage fees all arrive on schedule whether the listing has found its ranking or not. The sellers who survive have one thing in common: they launched with enough working capital to place a second and third order without panic discounting price or slashing ad spend right when the listing needed visibility most. So let's run the actual math on 2 versions of your FBA brand. Option 1, a lean single product launch. You spend $6,000 total inventory, samples, photography, and a 60-day ad budget on one product priced at $24.99 with a landed cost of $5. After Amazon's combined fees of roughly 35% and an early tacos of 25%, you're netting around 15% margin, or about $3.75 per unit, once the listing stabilizes around month 4. At 300 units a month, that's $1,125 in monthly profit, or roughly $13,500 a year, on one product. Most single SKU sellers plateau here. The path forward isn't squeezing more out of the same listing, it's launching complementary products in the same niche, building toward brand registry benefits, or eventually selling the brand to a buyer looking for a proven listing history. Option 2, a proper multi-SKU brand with real working capital. You spend $25,000 to $40,000 across 3 to 5 complementary products, with enough reserve to reorder without a cash crunch. By year 2, a well-run brand in this format can generate $40,000 to $80,000 in monthly revenue across the catalog. At a mature 15 to 20% net margin, that's $6,000 to $16,000 in monthly profit, or roughly $72,000 to $190,000 a year. The best-performing brands, with strong Q4 execution and loyal repeat traffic, can push margins toward 20 to 25% in their most mature years, sometimes scaling toward 7 figures before becoming a genuine acquisition target. That's a very good business. It's also a very hard one, running on some of the tightest margin tolerances in e-commerce, where the difference between a profitable quarter and a losing one is often a tacos that crept 5 points too high during a launch, a freight spike right before a big reorder, or a competitor undercutting your price the same week your ad costs went up. The brands that make it aren't the ones with the flashiest unboxing video. They're run by people who understood the fee structure before the first order, kept advertising under control once the listing matured, built a buffer that could absorb a slow launch without panic decisions, and treated inventory timing as seriously as the product itself. Not bad for a business model where Amazon takes a third of every sale before you've even paid for the product, and where the sellers who last are the ones who treated the fee sheet like the most important document in the business, because it was.